Welcome to the Ori-Gen Collective livestream. Tonight, I'm joined by Brazilian percussionist and educator Rogério Boccato, who's been living in the New York City area for the last 15 years. Tonight, he's going to share some of his music with us. Welcome.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for joining in. Just want to say that I'm very happy to be part of this collective, representing Brazil, such an important country musically and culturally in the world. So I'm glad that and honored that I was, invited to join these amazing artists. And yes, we're gonna be sharing some of the music I've been producing and playing and experimenting. It's gonna be a variety of things.
So what's the first thing we're gonna hear?
So we'll start with two very short pieces that I composed live as I was playing. And it's all based on this, or I just used this one object, which is actually not a percussion instrument, but it's an object that is made into a percussion instrument. And that's sort of a habit that I have of going everywhere, and in this case to the IKEA store, which is a very fun place to go, and tapping on everything that I look and see and imagine, oh, maybe that has some sound, and I check, and sometimes I find some stuff. So this is the metal strainer, silver strainer that I use. And I chose, 3 of those, and with that material, I composed 4 pieces actually. We're gonna hear 2 in a row, and then interspersed throughout the program, another 2 variations.
And the idea is an exploration of sounds with just that one object.
Yeah, because as a percussionist, this is something I've been, working with, and I always have this in my mind. And also based on something I heard the great Angela Davis, the activist, political activist and author, when she was talking about the moment we're living in, the last 401 years, to be more precise, here in this country. And she said that we need to develop habits of imagination, habits of perception. And that struck, a chord in me.
What does that mean exactly, habits of imagination?
I think what she meant was that the solutions that we imagine we need, they don't just appear in a vacuum or with a Superman or somebody that just comes and bling, magically transforms the world. So she's encouraging everybody to keep developing habits of imagination, meaning how do you imagine the world that you want to live in? And the solutions will come from us, not from just somebody. So in this practice of imagining, that's how things happened in the past with the civil rights movement, and all the solutions or any progress we had, she attributes to this little things that happen from people that just imagine, okay, I think we could do this, and then they did it.
So it was impossible until it wasn't.
Exactly.
And how does that connect to your music?
Well, I think the habit of imagining, or the imagination, I think it connects really with the habit of improvisation. And trying to reimagine things that you did once, like people play the same song many times, and hopefully they're trying to play that song not in this exactly same way that they played the time before. So I have that concept very strong in my mind, it's part of me. Mm-hmm. So in these pieces, so I have this limitation of just this one object, one sound basically, and I'm trying to force myself, what can I do with this that will sound interesting and I can do like 4 times in a row. So this is basically how I connected, with the music.
4 different times in a row.
4 different pieces with the same material, with the same, same object, same sounds basically. But I'm trying to explore in different ways. Let's see what happens.
All right. In this next piece, you're joined by a special guest. Do you want to tell us a little bit about him?
Sure. He's a person that I admire a lot and has been an enormous influence in my life. His name is Toninho Horta. He's a Brazilian composer, guitar player, and singer, and he's been writing music and playing for the last 50 plus years. And he's on many records that are very important in Brazilian music and now in the music of the world. And we'll be playing a tune by him called Pilar, or Igreja do Pilar. And he's an incredible representative of this specific part of Brazil, well, which is the state of Minas Gerais, also where Milton Nascimento comes from. And they're both, companions and partners in everything during the 70s especially. So that's our guest.
And how did you guys meet?
Well, I was playing back 30-something years ago, playing in a youth orchestra in Brazil. And him and other 4 guest artists were coming and to play a concert with the orchestra. So that's when I really got to know him and his music. And he was like, who is this guy? And immediately he looked back, for the percussion section and said, hey, you guys have, some, because I was playing timpani, it's like a symphony orchestra. And hey, you guys have some percussion, some Brazilian percussion. And I was like, whoa, I can find some. That was like, what do you mean? But I can go and find. And then we went and tried to, because I personally didn't have anything. I just played drum set and timpani at the time. So we went and looked for some options, and that's kind of how things started.
And when you say how things started, what do you mean?
Well, I mean that through the years, we kept in touch, and I kept, every time he came to São Paulo to perform, I would go and not only, watch the concert but then hang as well. And eventually we got close enough, and I matured enough, I guess, that he was courageous enough and brave to bring me in. So he calls me one day and say, hey, are you available to do this show with me? And I said, oh yeah, of course. When and who is the band? And he said, no, this is gonna be just duo, just you and me. And I was like, first shocked, and then the second thought, yeah, well, I'm gonna play drum set with you on acoustic guitar. I felt at that time, this is like 20 years ago, that wouldn't be a good match without a bass or keyboard or something. So I said, no, just play some percussion. And I was like, okay, let me think about that. So that's what prompted me developing what I've been doing these last 20 years, which is trying to find a way of playing percussion, but coming from a drum set perspective. So that's how I developed this setup that I've been using when I'm the only percussionist in the band and when the band leader allows me to do it. So it's, because of this experience, this invitation, and from there, things really took off.
Wow. And so the video that you're going to play, when was it recorded, or how was it recorded?
Okay, we all know we are in this together. Pandemic, coronavirus. So we were supposed to play a couple of duo concerts 20-something years after, here in the US on April 30th and May 1st, the International Jazz Day, and everything got canceled.
Right.
So I decided to put this together with something that he had already, I got a concert of him playing that piece, and then I just did the Zoom kind of screen share. Well, how do you say that? Square screen.
Split screen.
Split screen, exactly. So that's the closest we can get now. But hopefully, after this is, when we come back, it's in the books. We're gonna try to do it again.
Play again.
Yes.
That's great. Alright, so if you're just joining us, we're going to hear another one of the IKEA compositions, which are based on exploring sounds from only the one instrument, in this case, the little strainer for silverware, right, that you got at IKEA?
Yeah, they are my sponsors, but they don't know it. So I've been using it quite a bit. Yeah, this particular one, the third, is really a reflection, I think, of how I'm feeling about the moment we are living in now, with some more awareness that is springing to a lot of people about racial inequality and how things have been bad for so long. And I think at this moment things are kind of colliding and spreading around the globe, actually. So I'm basically trying to express a little bit of my feelings on that regards.
And how does that come out in the music?
I think you guys are gonna hear some sort of bluesy take on the IKEA strainers.
IKEA blues.
Yes.
I love it. So the next piece you have is titled Tableton. What does that mean?
It's just a stupid play of words.
Okay.
Well, because you guys are gonna see it, it's a table, and it's my first attempt to mess with electronics, and I'm using Ableton Live for that. And big shout out to Daniel, my son, because he spent hours helping me to set up, what I wanted to do. And this is actually my first, I always wanted to tap into the electronics world, but I always was afraid or not so sure because I didn't want to miss or leave the acoustic, the natural sounds. So it was like very careful to not just jump in and play sequencers or just loops or just process sounds, stuff that it's very easy. I mean, you press a button and things are all there, and there's so much technology available, so many resources. But it took me a while, and this is something I just jumped in, and it's the first attempt. We spent, this time setting up a couple of days ago, so it's really fresh out of the lab.
And when you say you were afraid to get into the electronic world, I get that there's people doing looping stuff and sequencers and all kinds of things. So how is your approach different than those approaches?
Well, it really ties back to the thing we were talking about in the beginning, the habits of imagination, habits of improvisation, putting yourself in a situation that requires you to be in the moment and respond, which is something that we all musicians are not doing right now so much. I mean, with very few exceptions, because everybody's doing videos and make these kind of things, and I send you some material on the click or not, but you just have to play in this structure because there's not a lot of space for interaction. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of options for that so far. So I try to put myself in a situation where the electronics will be the other person, sort of. So I'm not, usually people set up loopers, for instance. That's something I use in this piece. So you decide what you're gonna play, or you play a riff or some kind of loop, right, a vamp, 4 bars, whatever, a beat, and then you record that, and then you put that on the background, and then you play over that.
Right.
Okay, so once you press the play button, you know what's coming because you just recorded. So that puts you in the known situation, right?
Right.
And you can just build on, and people do amazing things with that. I'm not putting it down. But I wanted something that on the looper that would be like, oh, really? That's where we're going?
Like a surprise.
Like a surprise, like a change. So I did a setup that allowed me to do that. So I'm kind of trying to record the looping part with the volume down. And with applied some kind of effects, usually some kind of delay, which will create a new tempo or a new situation that I have to react to when I open it. So I'm trying to surprise myself because I don't have somebody else to do it with me. So that's because this is how I feel about music. Like, you gotta be in the moment, you gotta be creating and responding and listening to what's happening right now. And this is life also.
And that's how makes the music sound more alive.
Yeah, and it's very challenging because, sometimes not only the interface thing is new for me, but, it takes time to adapt and to react. But I think, even though it's my first attempt, I think I would just want to share the lab part, A lot of people share the finished product. I'm just putting out there something that is just my practicing or something I'm trying to develop. It's an opportunity.
Sharing your creative process.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
So
let's
take
check it out. So now we've arrived at the final song. What do you have for us?
Well, this is a very special one because I have another special guest, which is Rogério Boccato.
Hello.
She was gracious enough to be doing this with me, and since we are in the same house during this pandemic quarantine, I decided, let's do one of your songs. So she wrote a song originally for her trio, Azaran Earth Trio, and it's a coco. And I wanted to finish this concert with a very lively Brazilian traditional rhythm and style called coco, which is from the northeast of Brazil, and is a tradition with vocals and percussion only, and that's how we did it. And so I want you to tell us what's the song about and what's the name of it and all that.
Yeah, so the song is called Coco da Primavera, and primavera means springtime, and it's my Brazilian's lament as a transplanted New Yorker who will never get used to these heavy, long, gray, dark winters. I think it snowed on the first day of spring a few years back, and I was just so down, I ended up channeling my depression into music and wrote the song where the repeating coro is, where is spring? Why is she taking so long to come? And the answer that you'll hear repeated is, sei lá, which means, I don't know. And this is how I feel about the winters in New York.
Thank you. So before we play it, just want to thank everybody for joining us. And again, I'm very happy to be part of the Ori-Gen Collective, and there are many more of these concerts coming up through the summer, so stay tuned and enjoy. Thank you.
Cadê essa primavera que eu não vejo ela chegar? Sei lá, mas cadê essa primavera que eu não vejo ela chegar? Sei lá, cadê essa primavera que eu não vejo ela chegar? Sei lá, cadê essa primavera que eu não vejo ela chegar? Sei lá, não aguento esperar, sou do hemisfério sul, tô com esse winter blue que não quer me abandonar, tô louca pra guardar esse casaco de inverno que pra mim é um inferno, ela resolve atrasar, mas cadê essa primavera que eu não vejo ela chegar? Sei lá, venha logo minha prima, eu não aguento congelar, sei lá, venha logo, venha aqui pra me alegrar, sei lá, mas cadê essa primavera que eu não vejo ela chegar? Sei lá, bora turma reunir todos os primos da família, dizer pra ela, minha filha, só falta você aqui, vamos te pôr na linha, não mexe na onde não, senão logo vem verão antes da primaverinha, cadê essa primavera que eu não vejo ela chegar? Sei lá, venha logo minha amiga, eu já não quero congelar, sei lá, venha logo, venha aqui pra me alegrar, sei lá, mas cadê essa primavera que eu não vejo ela chegar? Sei lá, não aguento esperar, sou do hemisfério sul, tô com esse winter blue que não quer me abandonar, tô louca pra guardar esse casaco de inverno que pra mim é um inferno, ela resolve atrasar, mas cadê essa primavera que eu não vejo ela chegar? Sei lá, cadê essa primavera que eu não vejo ela chegar? Sei lá, mas venha logo minha prima, eu já cansei de congelar, sei lá, cadê essa primavera que eu não vejo ela chegar? Sei lá, cadê você? Sei lá, mas cadê você? Sei lá, pois é cadê você? Sei lá, mas cadê você? Sei lá, pois cadê você? Cadê você? Cadê você? Cadê você? Cadê você? Sei lá, mas cadê, cadê, cadê você? Sei lá, pois cadê, cadê, cadê você? Sei lá, mas cadê, cadê, cadê você? Sei lá,